Maylord or bride arrived to find another woman. What the cowboy said shocked everyone. The sun hung low over the dusty plains of Terran 5, casting long, golden shadows across the settlement. The small frontier town seemed almost frozen in time, wooden buildings with tin roofs, windmills creaking lazily, and a single dirt road running through the center. This was not Earth, but a human colony at the edge of explored space. And today, a new arrival would change everything. Alara adjusted the strap of her travel satchel and stepped down from the shuttle's ramp. Her heart raced with nervous excitement. For months, she had imagined this moment, leaving her home world behind, traveling across light years, and finally meeting Rafe, her future husband. The idea of starting a new life in a strange, distant colony was thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. As her boots sank into the red-dusted ground, Alara scanned the settlement. A few colonists paused their daily chores, glancing her way but quickly returned to their work. Children waved from a distance, curious but cautious. The air smelled faintly metallic, mixed with the earthy scent of the planet's soil. It was not home, but it felt alive. She tightened her grip on the satchel and began walking toward the central cluster of buildings where she had been told Rafe lived. Each step brought a mix of excitement and anxiety. What would he be like? Tall, strong, kind. She wondered if the long journey had been worth it. When she reached the small house, her steps slowed. The wooden porch looked worn but well-maintained, and the front door was slightly ajar. She took a deep breath and knocked. The sound echoed faintly through the empty air. The door opened and she froze. There, standing inside, was another woman. She had short brown hair, sharp eyes, and a confident stance. She looked at Alara without fear, as if she had been expecting this moment. "Hello," Alara said, her voice small. The woman tilted her head. "You must be Alara." Alara blinked. "Yes, and you are." "I'm Lyra." "Welcome to Terran 5, the woman replied, smiling faintly. Alara's mind raced. This was not what she had imagined. She had expected to meet Rafe first, alone, maybe with a few helpers or neighbors. Not this. Before she could say more, a tall figure appeared behind Lyra. Rafe. His presence filled the doorway, broad shoulders, sun-weathered skin, eyes that seemed to study her with calm curiosity. His voice was low but steady. "Welcome, Alara," he said. "I see you've met Lyra." Alara's confusion must have been obvious because Rafe chuckled softly. "Don't worry, she's not what you think." Lyra stepped aside, giving Alara a clearer view of the small living room. The space was simple but comfortable, wooden furniture, a small kitchen area, and walls lined with shelves holding tools, supplies, and a few personal items. Nothing seemed out of place, yet everything felt alive, organized, purposeful. Alara swallowed hard. "Then who is she?" Rafe smiled faintly, as if amused by the question. "Lyra helps run this settlement. She's not exactly human." Alara's eyebrows shot up. "Not human," Lyra laughed softly. "I am human in a way. I was enhanced for this colony to help prepare for settlers like you." Rafe nodded. "Think of her as a scout, someone who can handle the first challenges of life here so newcomers have a safer landing." Alara felt her pulse quicken, not from fear but from curiosity. "Enhanced? How?" Lyra shrugged lightly. "It's a long story. Let's just say I'm designed to adapt quickly, learn fast, and help wherever I'm needed." Alara's mind whirled. She had read about enhanced humans on other colonies, people with minor modifications for survival, efficiency, or intelligence. But she had never met one in person. And now one was standing in her way, smiling politely, without a hint of threat. Rafe stepped forward, sensing her hesitation. "Alara, I know this is a surprise. I didn't expect you to arrive so soon, and Lyra was already here, making sure the settlement was ready. I promise, she's a friend, and soon so will you be." Alara took a step closer, studying both of them. Lyra's calm, confident presence was almost reassuring, even as her heart beat fast. And Rafe, he radiated a quiet strength, the kind that made you believe things would work out, no matter how strange or uncertain the situation. After a long moment, Alara finally nodded. I understand. I think I just wasn't expecting this. Rafe chuckled. Neither did I, but sometimes life has a way of surprising us. Lyra stepped forward and extended her hand. Let's start fresh. I'll show you around and you'll see why this place is ready for you. Alara hesitated, then took her hand. The shake was firm, confident. For the first time since her journey began, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe this strange new life wouldn't be as scary as she had imagined. The trio stepped outside and Lyra began pointing out the various structures in the settlement. That building over there is the workshop. Tools, repairs, crafting. The storage unit next to it holds most of our supplies. And that large structure to the west, that's the greenhouse. We grow everything we need here, from food to medicine plants. Alara listened carefully, her mind absorbing every detail. The settlement was small, but it was organized, efficient, and surprisingly thriving. Lyra's presence seemed to explain it. Someone had clearly put thought, effort, and care into making this place livable. As they walked, Rafe stayed quiet, watching Alara's reactions. Every now and then he'd smile, as if silently noting her growing comfort. And slowly the tension began to fade. The sky, now tinged with orange and pink from the setting sun, seemed less harsh. The wind, carrying a faint scent of minerals and soil, no longer felt foreign. Finally, they reached the edge of the settlement where a small hill overlooked the plains. Lyra paused and gestured toward the horizon. Out there is everything else, the wilds, unclaimed land, and the unknown. It can be beautiful, but it can also be unforgiving. That's why we prepare. That's why we humans, manage to thrive where others struggle. Alara stared at the endless plains, the colors of the sunset reflecting in her eyes. There was danger, yes, but also potential. And somehow, standing there with Rafe and Lyra, she felt a connection to something larger, something that made the long journey worthwhile. Rafe spoke softly, breaking the silence. Humans have a way of surviving, of adapting. No matter the challenge, we find a way. Alara nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. She was far from home, in a strange settlement on a distant planet, and yet for the first time she felt ready. Lyra smiled. Tomorrow we'll get you settled. We have a lot to do, but you'll see, it's not as lonely as it looks. This place, it grows on you. Alara returned the smile, her fear slowly melting into anticipation. She had arrived expecting a husband and perhaps a quiet life. Instead, she found two companions, a new home, and the promise of adventure. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the settlement in soft twilight, Alara realized that her journey had only just begun. And somehow, she already knew that life on Terran 5 would be unlike anything she had ever imagined. The wind whispered across the plains, carrying with it the faint scent of possibility. And Alara, standing on the edge of this new world, felt a spark of courage she hadn't known she possessed. For the first time in months, she smiled, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with humans like Rafe and Lyra by her side. The story of her new life had begun, and nothing, not even the unknown wilds of Terran 5, could stop it. The morning sun rose slowly over Terran 5, painting the dusty plains in soft gold. The settlement stirred to life as Alara stepped outside her small temporary quarters. Her mind was still buzzing with questions from the day before. Rafe had introduced her to Lyra, the enhanced human scout, but Alara wanted to understand more. The air was cool, carrying a faint metallic scent. Children ran past, laughing as they chased small rolling machines Lyra had built for entertainment and training. Colonists went about their chores, tending the greenhouse, repairing tools, or checking the fences that marked the boundaries of their small world. Despite the harsh landscape, the settlement felt alive, full of purpose and energy. Alara followed Lyra to the central workshop, a sturdy building made of reinforced metal and wood. Tools hung neatly along the walls. Workbenches were cluttered but organized, with gadgets, half-finished machines, and holographic schematics floating above some surfaces. Lyra walked with confidence, moving as if she had already memorized every inch of the settlement. "You live here alone?" Alara asked, curious. Lyra shook her head. "Not exactly alone. Rafe helps. Others come and go, traders, settlers, supply drones. But mostly I keep things running until new arrivals like you show up. That's my role." Alara tilted her head. "But you said you're not exactly human." Lyra smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I am human, but I've been enhanced. My body and mind are optimized to adapt, learn, and solve problems faster than a typical person. I can analyze situations quickly and find solutions before most humans even notice the problem." Alara frowned, unsure what to make of it. "Enhanced like an AI." "Sort of," Lyra replied. "I have human intuition, emotions, and creativity. But I can process information in ways that feel superhuman. That's why I prepare settlements before new people arrive. I make sure things are safe, efficient, and ready for growth." Alara looked around the workshop. The machines, tools, and gadgets made sense now. Everything was neat, but it had been built with both intelligence and foresight. Lyra wasn't just living here, she was shaping the settlement for everyone who would come. Rafe appeared from the greenhouse, wiping soil from his hands. He smiled at the two women. "Morning," he said. "I hope you're settling in okay, Alara." Alara nodded. "Yes, it's amazing, but I'm still trying to understand how everything works." "Lyra seems different," Rafe chuckled. "Different, yes, but she's human in the ways that matter. Courage, kindness, creativity. She just has a few advantages that help her survive here more easily." Alara studied him. "Advantages?" Rafe shrugged. "Let's just say Lyra is built for the frontier. She can think and act faster, adapt to danger, and solve problems on the fly. That doesn't mean she's better than the rest of us. It just means she can help people like you and me thrive in places where others might struggle." Alara felt a mix of admiration and curiosity. This wasn't just a settlement. It was a living experiment in human ingenuity. And Lyra, with her enhanced skills, was at the heart of it. They spent the morning touring the settlement. Lyra showed her the greenhouse, where plants grew in carefully controlled conditions. Some were native to Terran 5, able to survive in the harsh climate, while others were earth crops adapted with genetic modifications. Tiny sensors measured soil quality, water levels, and plant health, all feeding data to a central system Lyra monitored. "This place is incredible," Alara said. "How do you manage all of this alone?" Lyra shrugged lightly. "I'm not alone. I have the settlers' help when needed, and Rafe is always around. Plus, I'm designed to multitask. I can manage more than one thing at a time without losing focus." Alara nodded slowly, trying to imagine living like that. The thought was both inspiring and intimidating. Humans were remarkable, she realized, capable of extraordinary adaptation, creativity, and resilience. And here on Terran 5, those qualities were not just admirable, they were essential. Rafe led her to the edge of the settlement where the plains stretched endlessly. He picked up a small, smooth stone and tossed it lightly into the air. "You see that?" he asked. "Out there is everything we don't control. Wild terrain, unpredictable weather, unknown creatures. Most humans would struggle here, even with training. But some find a way to turn challenges into opportunities. That's what keeps humans alive and sometimes even thriving in places that seem impossible." Alara followed the stone's arc, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Opportunities. Every challenge is an opportunity," Rafe explained. "A chance to learn, to adapt, to build something new. That's what humans do. We take what seems impossible and make it work." Lyra joined them, her enhanced senses picking up subtle changes in the wind and soil. "The alien species nearby can't think like this. They follow routines, rules, and patterns. Humans, we improvise, we create, we adapt. That's why we survive where others fail. Alara felt a spark of pride. She had always known humans were resourceful, but seeing it here in action was different. It wasn't just survival, it was artistry, intelligence, and courage combined. The trio returned to the settlement as the sun climbed higher. Lyra led Alara to a workbench where several small machines sat half-assembled. "I want you to try something," she said, handing Alara a toolkit. "It's simple, just follow the steps. I'll guide you." Alara hesitated. She wasn't sure she could do it, but Rafe's encouraging smile and Lyra's calm presence gave her courage. She picked up a small metal frame and began following Lyra's instructions. Hours passed. Alara struggled at first, making small mistakes, but Lyra corrected her patiently. Slowly, a small device took shape, a sensor that could detect soil moisture and temperature. Rafe nodded approvingly. "See, humans learn quickly, and sometimes we even improve on what we're taught." Alara smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She had come to Terran 5 unsure of herself, but now she realized that she could contribute, that humans could take on challenges even when they seemed overwhelming. As the day wore on, more settlers arrived. Traders, delivery drones, and even a few curious aliens from neighboring outposts. They greeted Rafe, Lyra, and Alara warmly, intrigued by the newcomers. The settlement buzzed with energy, a small community thriving in the middle of a wild planet. During a break, Alara sat on a bench outside, watching the settlement. Lyra joined her, carrying a cup of nutrient-rich tea. "You're doing well," Lyra said. "It's not easy adjusting to a new world, but you're learning quickly. That's human nature." Alara took a sip, smiling. "I think I understand now. Humans survive because we don't just react, we think, we create, we adapt. Even in a place like this, we find ways to thrive." Lyra nodded. "Exactly. And that's why we're important not just here but in the galaxy. Our creativity, courage, and adaptability, those are traits no one else has to the same extent. That's why humans matter." Rafe joined them, sitting on the other side of Alara. "And now you're part of it. You'll help shape this settlement, help it grow. You'll see that life here isn't just about survival. It's about creating something lasting, something meaningful." Alara felt a warm sense of belonging. She had arrived expecting a husband, perhaps a quiet life, and a lonely future. Instead, she found a community, mentors, and the beginning of her own story. She realized that humans, in their essence, could face any challenge and turn it into an opportunity. By evening, the settlement gathered for a small meal. Tables were set outside under the soft light of Terran 5 twin moons. The air was cool, carrying a hint of the wild plains beyond. Settlers shared stories, laughter, and plans for the future. Alara listened, absorbing every detail, feeling more at home with each passing moment. Rafe raised his glass. "To humans," he said, "may we continue to adapt, survive, and thrive, no matter where we are." Alara raised her cup, her heart swelling with pride. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the strange, uncertain future ahead, and the companions who had welcomed her without hesitation. "To humans," she repeated, her voice steady and full of hope. As the stars appeared above, glittering in the night sky, Alara felt a sense of wonder. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and possibilities. But humans, clever, brave, and adaptable, could carve a place for themselves anywhere. And she would be part of that story, shaping a future on Terran 5, alongside Rafe and Lyra. The wind whispered across the plains, carrying the scent of possibilities. And Alara, for the first time since leaving her home world, felt truly ready for whatever the galaxy had in store. The next morning, the settlement of Terran 5 stirred with a quiet energy. Sunlight spilled across the dusty plains, catching the edges of the wooden and metal structures. Birds, native to the planet, called from the distant hills. Alara woke early, eager to see more of the settlement and to continue learning from Lyra and Rafe. She stepped outside and noticed Lyra adjusting the small solar panels on the greenhouse roof. "Good morning," Alara called, trying to sound cheerful. Lyra glanced up and smiled. "Good morning, Alara. Ready to start today's tasks?" Alara nodded. "Yes, what do we do first?" "First, we check the boundaries," Lyra said. "We make sure the perimeter is secure. Nothing major, but Terran 5 is unpredictable. You never know what could appear." Alara followed Lyra, and soon Rafe joined them with a small handheld device that beeped softly as they walked. "Just a routine check," Rafe explained. "We look for environmental hazards, changes in soil stability, or unusual readings. Nothing to worry about." As they walked along the perimeter, Alara noticed subtle differences in the terrain. Small rock formations jutted out from the soil, strange colored plants grew in irregular patches, and the wind carried a faint hum, almost musical, that she could feel more than hear. Lyra paused near a cluster of rocks. "Do you feel that?" she asked. "The wind, it's picking up in patterns. That can indicate changes in the environment, like a storm or sudden movement of animals." Alara looked at her curiously. "You can feel that in the wind," Lyra nodded. "Enhanced senses. I notice subtle changes humans usually miss. It helps me prepare for unexpected events." Alara shivered slightly, not from cold, but from the realization that this settlement was full of hidden intelligence. Humans here weren't just surviving, they were anticipating everything the planet could throw at them. Suddenly, the device in Rafe's hand beeped rapidly. He frowned and looked around. "That's unusual," he said. "Something's moving in the eastern plains." Alara's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Rafe shook his head. "We don't know yet. Could be a herd of native animals or something else. Let's investigate before we jump to conclusions." The three of them moved cautiously toward the east, keeping the settlement in sight. As they approached, Alara could see faint shapes moving over the hills. They were not like any animals she had seen on Earth. Their forms were strange, slightly translucent, almost glowing in the sunlight. They moved with a rhythm, as if communicating silently among themselves. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "I've never seen these patterns before." "But they're not aggressive, yet we need to stay alert." Rafe nodded. "Agreed. Let's observe first, gather data, then decide how to act. No unnecessary risks." Alara felt a mix of fear and excitement. Her journey had brought her to this new world, and now she was seeing its unknown creatures up close. She realized that humans thrived here not just because of strength, but because of careful thinking, observation, and teamwork. Lyra knelt and placed a small scanner on the ground. A soft glow spread from it, scanning the moving shapes. "They're intelligent," she said after a moment. "Not like humans, but they're organized. They respond to each other coordinate movements. Fascinating." Alara leaned closer. "Intelligent, but are they dangerous?" Lyra shook her head. "Not inherently, but any unfamiliar species can be risky if startled or threatened. We need to keep a safe distance and understand them first." Rafe stepped forward, holding out his hand to signal patience. "Exactly. Observation before action. That's how humans survive here. Adapt, learn, and only then respond." Alara watched as the creatures moved closer to the settlement, pausing at the outskirts of the fields. They didn't seem to notice the humans yet. Lyra pointed out subtle signals in their movement, shifts in color, small changes in posture that indicated communication among them. "It's amazing," Alara whispered. "They're talking without words." Rafe smiled faintly. "Nature always finds a way to communicate. Humans just need to pay attention." The creatures lingered for a while, and the humans observed them carefully. Lyra suggested creating small deterrents to guide them away from the settlement, just in case. She and Rafe placed low, harmless energy barriers in strategic positions. The devices emitted soft lights and sounds, guiding the creatures gently away from the cultivated fields. Alara assisted, following their instructions, feeling the thrill of contributing to the safety of the settlement. The creatures reacted quickly but without fear, adjusting their path and moving peacefully away from the crops. Alara couldn't help but smile. Humans had found a way to coexist safely, even with beings they didn't fully understand. Once the creatures moved to a safe distance, Rafe turned to Alara. See, that's human adaptability. We use observation, tools, and creativity to handle challenges others might avoid or fear. It's not about confrontation, it's about thinking ahead. Alara nodded, impressed. I think I understand now. Humans aren't just strong or smart, we're clever. We find ways to solve problems that others can't even imagine. Lyra added, exactly. And it's not just about survival. It's about creating harmony, understanding, and solutions. That's why humans thrive where others struggle. The day continued with more tasks for Alara. She helped Lyra repair small machines, plant new crops in the greenhouse, and organize supplies. Every task taught her something new about the settlement, about Rafe, and about humans in general. She realized that life here required constant awareness, problem-solving, and adaptability. During a mid-afternoon break, the sky changed. Clouds rolled in quickly, darkening the sun and casting long shadows across the plains. The wind picked up, carrying a chill that made Alara pull her jacket tighter. Lyra's enhanced senses detected subtle vibrations in the ground. A storm is approaching faster than usual, she said. We need to secure the settlement. Rafe nodded. Let's move. Alara helped with the greenhouse nets. Lyra checked the barriers. Alara felt a surge of adrenaline. This was a real challenge, unlike anything she had faced before. She worked quickly, tying down nets over fragile plants, securing equipment, and following Rafe's instructions. The wind howled, but the humans moved calmly, efficiently, and together. The storm hit with sudden force. Dust swirled in thick clouds and small pebbles bounced across the ground. But inside the settlement, the humans were prepared. The greenhouse stood firm, supplies were safe, and the barriers held steady. Alara marveled at how Rafe and Lyra anticipated every problem, turning potential disaster into a manageable situation. Hours later, the storm passed, leaving the plains wet and glistening under the sun. The settlement had survived without damage. Alara leaned against a post, catching her breath, and smiled. I never imagined life could be like this. Every day is a challenge. Lyra nodded. Yes, but challenges make humans special. We don't just survive, we adapt, create, and thrive. That's why we matter, even on planets like Terran 5. Rafe placed a hand on Alara's shoulder. And now you're part of it. You've seen how humans think, act, and solve problems. You've contributed today. That's what makes a community strong, humans working together, using our brains, our courage, and our creativity. Alara felt a deep sense of pride. She had arrived scared and uncertain, but now she understood a truth she hadn't fully grasped before. Humans were remarkable. Not because of physical strength alone, but because of their minds, their adaptability, and their spirit. As the sun set, the settlement gathered outside for a small meal. Settlers shared stories of the storm, the creatures they had observed, and the clever solutions that had kept everyone safe. Laughter and conversation filled the air, blending with the gentle sounds of the plains. Alara sat between Rafe and Lyra, feeling a part of something larger than herself. She had arrived expecting a husband, a home, and perhaps a quiet life. Instead, she found adventure, knowledge, and a deep appreciation for human ingenuity. That night under Terran 5 twin moons, Alara gazed at the stars. The universe was vast, full of unknown challenges and wonders. But humans, adaptable, clever, and brave, could carve a place for themselves anywhere. And she would be part of that story, shaping a future on this wild, beautiful planet. The wind whispered softly across the plains, carrying the scent of possibility. And Alara, standing on the edge of this new world, felt a spark of confidence and excitement. The challenges of tomorrow were unknown, but for the first time she felt ready to face them, guided by the strength, intelligence, and spirit of humans. The morning after the storm, Terran 5 settlement looked renewed. Dust had settled, the The sun reflected off freshly watered soil, and the small wooden buildings gleamed warmly in the golden light. Ilara stepped outside, stretching, her heart still racing from the previous day's events. The storm had tested her courage, but more importantly, it had shown her how humans could face challenges with intelligence and teamwork. Rafe was already in the fields, examining the greenhouse plants. His hands moved over the leaves carefully, checking for damage. Lyra adjusted sensors on the perimeter barriers, ensuring they were still functioning correctly. Both seemed calm and efficient, as if the storm had been nothing more than a routine task. Ilara approached them, carrying a basket of tools she had organized the night before. "Good morning," she said. "Morning," Rafe replied with a smile. "Ready for today? We have more work, but I think you're ready for it." Lyra nodded. "Today, you'll help me set up an early warning system. It's simple, but it could save the settlement if something unusual happens again." Ilara's curiosity was piqued. "An early warning system." Lyra held up a small, glowing device. "Yes, it detects environmental changes, movement in the plains, or unusual signals. You'll help position it around the settlement and connect it to the central hub." Ilara felt a thrill of excitement. It was hands-on work, something tangible she could contribute. She followed Lyra and Rafe as they moved toward the northern edge of the settlement, carrying equipment and small sensors. The plains stretched endlessly beyond the settlement, a mix of red soil, jagged rocks, and strange alien vegetation. Ilara scanned the horizon, feeling the vastness of the world pressing on her. It was beautiful and dangerous all at once, a reminder that life on Terran 5 demanded attention, cleverness, and courage. Lyra knelt near a small rock formation. "Place the sensor here. The rocks will amplify signals from the plains." She pointed to a spot a few feet away. "And make sure it faces the east. That's the direction most unusual activity comes from." Ilara bent down carefully, placing the sensor and connecting it to a thin cable running back to the hub. She followed Lyra's instructions closely, amazed at how precise and logical every step was. Hours passed as they placed sensors around the settlement. Ilara learned how to read the readings, adjust sensitivity, and even predict potential changes in the environment. Every task strengthened her confidence. She realized that humans weren't just strong, they were problem solvers, innovators, and thinkers. By midday, the sensors were in place, glowing softly and humming with energy. Rafe and Lyra tested them, simulating minor environmental changes and observing the device's responses. Everything worked perfectly. Ilara smiled. "We did it. This will help protect the settlement if something happens again." Lyra nodded. "Exactly. Humans don't just survive, we plan ahead, create solutions, and adapt quickly. That's why we thrive here." Rafe added, "And now you're part of that. You help make the settlement stronger." Ilara felt a warmth in her chest. She had started this journey uncertain, worried, and nervous. But now she saw herself as part of a human story, an ongoing tale of creativity, courage, and adaptation. Just as they were finishing, a faint vibration ran through the ground. Lyra's sensors picked it up immediately, her eyes narrowed. "Movement, something unusual is coming from the east." Ilara's heart raced. "Again, what is it this time?" Rafe grabbed a handheld scanner. "We don't know yet, but we'll find out. Stay calm and follow instructions." The three of them moved to the settlement's perimeter. The sensors' readings confirmed Lyra's observation. A group of unknown creatures was approaching. But this time, their movement was different. They were faster, coordinated, and more purposeful. Lyra studied the patterns. "They're intelligent, not like humans, but organized. They're curious, not aggressive, yet we need to be ready," Rafe nodded. "We won't fight. We'll guide them safely away if necessary, like last time. Humans survive by thinking, not by rushing into danger." Ilara felt a mix of fear and anticipation. This was her first real test, a chance to see humans in action again. She followed Lyra and Rafe as they deployed the sensors along the path the creatures were taking. Soft lights and harmless signals directed the creatures away from the settlement, guiding them toward open plains. But this time, the creatures didn't immediately follow. They paused, almost studying the humans' actions, tilting their glowing forms as if analyzing the situation. Alara realized they were observing and learning, adapting just like humans did. Lyra whispered, "They're testing us. They sense our intentions. We need to be precise and calm." Alara's hands shook slightly, but she focused, placing another sensor carefully. "Done," she said. Rafe smiled. "Good job, precision and calm, that's what humans do best." Minutes passed. Slowly, the creatures began to follow the guided path, moving away from the settlement without incident. Alara watched, amazed at how humans could solve problems creatively, using understanding instead of force. When the creatures had moved a safe distance away, Rafe turned to Alara. "You see, that's the human advantage. We adapt, we plan, and we guide. Strength isn't always physical. Sometimes it's intelligence, patience, and creativity." Alara nodded. "I understand. Humans survive because we think ahead, we're clever, and we work together." Lyra added, "Exactly. And it's not just surviving, it's about thriving. Using our minds, our skills, and our courage to turn challenges into opportunities." The rest of the day was spent repairing minor damage from the storm and checking the settlement systems. Alara worked alongside Rafe and Lyra, learning new techniques, discovering hidden strengths in herself, and understanding the depth of human adaptability. As evening fell, the settlement gathered for a small meal outside. The air was cool, the sky painted with shades of orange and pink. Settlers shared stories of the approaching creatures, their coordinated movements, and the clever solutions that had kept everyone safe. Laughter and conversation filled the air, blending with the sounds of the plains. Alara sat beside Rafe and Lyra, feeling a sense of belonging. She had arrived expecting a husband and perhaps a quiet life. Instead, she found adventure, purpose, and a deep understanding of human ingenuity. Rafe raised his cup. "To humans," he said, "we face challenges, we adapt, and we create solutions no one else can imagine." Alara raised her cup, her heart swelling with pride. "To humans," she echoed. As the night deepened, the twin moons of Terran 5 shone over the settlement, casting gentle light over the fields and buildings. The creatures had retreated to the distance, and the settlement was safe once more. Alara stood on the edge of the plains, watching the stars. The universe was vast, filled with unknown challenges and wonders. But humans, creative, brave, and adaptable, could thrive anywhere. And she would be part of that story, shaping a future alongside Rafe and Lyra. The wind whispered across the plains, carrying the scent of possibilities. Alara smiled, feeling ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Challenges would come, she knew, but humans had a way of turning even danger into opportunity. And tonight, under the glowing moons of Terran 5, she felt the true power of humanity. Clever, patient, creative, and brave. The dawn on Terran 5 arrived slowly, painting the settlement in soft gold and rose hues. Birds sang from the distant hills, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of wet soil from the previous day's storm. The settlement had survived the challenges of the storm and the curious creatures, but today brought something new, a test of human ingenuity unlike any they had faced before. Alara stepped outside her quarters, taking a deep breath of the crisp morning air. She felt alive, alert, and more confident than ever. Over the past days, she had seen firsthand the cleverness, creativity, and courage of humans, and now she was ready to contribute fully. Rafe and Lyra were already at the workshop, preparing for the day's tasks. Rafe looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Alara. Ready for today?" Alara nodded. "Yes. What are we doing?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We have a new challenge." The settlement sensors detected unusual energy readings coming from the northern plains. It could be a natural anomaly or something else. Either way, we need to investigate. Alara felt a mix of curiosity and caution. The northern plains were vast and largely unexplored, but she trusted Rafe and Lyra. Humans survived here not by rushing in blindly, but by thinking carefully, observing, and adapting. The trio set off, carrying sensors, portable data analyzers, and supplies. The northern plains stretched endlessly, with strange rock formations and alien vegetation. The air was charged with subtle energy, a faint hum beneath the wind. Alara's heart beat faster. This was unknown territory, but humans thrived in the unknown. As they approached the source of the readings, the terrain shifted. Crystalline formations jutted from the ground, glowing faintly. The sensors began to pick up irregular patterns in the energy field, fluctuations that pulsed rhythmically. Lyra knelt and scanned the crystals. "These are not just minerals," she said. "They're interacting with the atmosphere, creating a weak energy field. Fascinating." Rafe examined the area carefully. "If this energy grows, it could disrupt the settlement or even the greenhouse systems. We need to study it and find a way to stabilize it." Alara looked at the crystals, intrigued. "Can we use them?" Lyra smiled faintly. "That's the human way. We don't just avoid challenges, we find ways to turn them into opportunities. If we can channel this energy, it might power some of our systems or even improve crop growth in the greenhouse." Alara felt a thrill. Humans didn't just survive, they innovated. They saw problems as chances to learn, create, and thrive. And now she would take part in that process. The three of them worked methodically. Lyra analyzed the crystal formations. Rafe suggested ways to stabilize the energy flow, and Alara assisted by setting up small conduits and sensors. They moved carefully, learning from each other's insights, testing ideas and adjusting strategies in real time. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the glowing crystals. Alara began to understand the rhythm of the energy, noticing patterns in its pulses. With Lyra's guidance, she placed a series of stabilizing devices that absorbed excess energy and redirected it safely. Rafe monitored the readings. "It's working. The fluctuations are decreasing. The energy field is stabilizing." Alara felt a surge of pride. She had helped solve a complex problem in a foreign world. She realized that humans were remarkable not because of physical strength, but because of their intelligence, creativity, and teamwork. Lyra looked at Alara and nodded. "Well done. Humans adapt, humans think. Humans find solutions where others might see only danger. That's why we thrive." Alara smiled. "I understand now. Humans survive by using our minds, not just our hands. We turn challenges into opportunities." Rafe added, "And we work together, that's the key. Alone, any problem can seem impossible, but humans cooperating, sharing ideas, and using creativity, that's unstoppable." With the energy field stabilized, the trio returned to the settlement. They were tired but exhilarated. Settlers greeted them with curiosity, eager to learn what had been discovered. Alara explained their work, showing the results and the readings. The settlers were amazed, not just at the technology but at the ingenuity behind it. As evening approached, the settlement gathered for a meal outside under the twin moons. The air was calm, the plains silent, and the sky filled with stars. Settlers shared stories of the energy anomaly, the storm, and the creatures. Laughter and conversation filled the air, blending with the gentle sounds of Terran 5 wilderness. Alara sat between Rafe and Lyra, feeling a deep sense of belonging. She had arrived expecting a husband, a home, and perhaps a quiet life. Instead, she found adventure, purpose, and a profound understanding of human ingenuity. Rafe raised his cup. "To humans," he said. "We face challenges, we adapt, we think, and we create solutions no one else could imagine. We thrive because we never give up, we never stop learning, and we work together." Alara raised her cup, her heart swelling with pride. "To humans," she echoed. Lyra added, and to all who come after us. Humans will continue to explore, discover, and make the unknown familiar. That's who we are. The settlers cheered, their voices echoing across the plains. Alara felt the unity and strength of humans in that moment. It was not just survival, it was triumph through creativity, courage, and cooperation. After the meal, Alara walked to the edge of the settlement, gazing at the northern plains where the energy crystals now glowed softly. The universe was vast, full of unknown challenges and wonders, but humans, clever, brave, and adaptable, could thrive anywhere, and she would be part of that story, helping shape the future of Terran 5. Rafe joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've done well, Alara. You've learned quickly, adapted, and contributed. That's what makes humans special," Alara smiled. "I feel like I understand now. Humans aren't just survivors. We're creators, thinkers, problem solvers. We can turn any challenge into an opportunity." Lyra joined them, her eyes reflecting the glowing plains. "And together, we're unstoppable. That's why humans matter in this galaxy and any other." The wind whispered across the plains, carrying the scent of possibility. Alara took a deep breath, feeling a sense of pride, courage, and hope. The settlement was safe, the challenges had been met, and the humans around her had shown her the true meaning of resilience and ingenuity. That night under Terran 5 twin moons, the settlement rested peacefully. The energy anomaly had been stabilized, the creatures had returned to their distance, and the humans had proven once again that creativity, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome any obstacle. Alara lay in her quarters, thinking about everything she had learned. Humans thrived not because they were the strongest, fastest, or most powerful beings, but because they were clever, adaptable, and cooperative. They could turn unknown worlds into homes, challenges into opportunities, and strangers into communities. For the first time since her journey began, Alara felt fully at home. She realized that humans were extraordinary, not just on Earth, but anywhere in the universe. And she was proud to be one of them. The wind whispered through the settlement, soft and gentle, carrying with it the promise of new adventures, new discoveries, and the unbreakable spirit of humans. Alara smiled, knowing that the story of Terran 5 was just beginning, and she would be a part of it, alongside Rafe, Lyra, and the rest of the human settlers. Together, they would face whatever challenges the universe had in store, guided by intelligence, creativity, and courage. And in that moment, Alara knew the truth. Humans, wherever they go, can thrive against the odds. They are problem solvers, innovators, and explorers. They adapt, survive, and shine, even in worlds that seem impossible. The twin moons glowed softly over Terran 5, and the settlement slept under the stars. Humans had faced the unknown and turned it into a story of triumph, ingenuity, and hope, a story that Alara was proud to continue.